The space station above Leora 7 was always crowded. Ships from dozens of worlds came and went every hour. Traders shouted prices, miners carried heavy tools, and strange scents of alien food mixed with the smoke of machinery. For most people, it was noisy and exciting. For Ethan Hale, a human trader from Earth, it was just another day of survival. Ethan walked through the market with his bag slung over his shoulder. He had sold most of his supplies already, but the profits were small. Life in space was not easy for a human. Earth was far away, and compared to many advanced species, humans had little technology or influence. Ethan had learned to live with little, taking whatever small trade deals he could find. His stomach growled softly as he passed a food stall. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small item wrapped in silver foil. It was his last chocolate bar, a sweet from Earth he had been saving for weeks. Chocolate was rare out here, and it reminded him of home. He thought about eating it, right there, but something made him stop. Near the corner of the market, sitting on the cold metal floor, was a small alien girl. Her skin shimmered faintly blue under the harsh lights of the station, and her eyes were large and bright. Though, filled with exhaustion, her clothes were torn and her hands trembled as she held them out to passing strangers. Most ignored her. Some gave her sharp looks, as if she were nothing more than a nuisance. Ethan slowed his steps. He had seen beggars before, miners who had lost their jobs, children who had lost families. But something about this girl was different. She looked far too young to be here alone. Her voice was weak as she tried to speak to passers-by. Food. Please. Food. The words were broken, but in a language Ethan recognized. Standard trade tongue, a common dialect across the galaxy. He sighed. His life was hard enough without adding someone else's burden. Yet, as he looked at the girl, a memory came back to him. His little sister back on Earth, long gone now, who used to smile when he shared sweets with her. Before he could change his mind, Ethan crouched down in front of the girl. Her eyes widened, surprised that someone had stopped. Slowly, he unwrapped the chocolate bar and held it out to her. "This is all I've got," he said softly, "but it's yours." The girl blinked at the shiny wrapper as if she had never seen anything like it before. Carefully, with trembling fingers, she took it. She smelled the sweet scent and then took a tiny bite. Instantly, her face lit up. A smile spread across her tired features, and for a moment she looked like any child tasting joy for the first time. Sweet. Warm. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice shaking. Ethan gave a small smile and stood up. "Eat it slowly. Don't make yourself sick." He turned to walk away. It wasn't much, just a piece of chocolate, and tomorrow he would probably regret giving away his last treat. But something about the girl's smile stayed in his mind as he blended back into the crowd. Behind him, the girl clutched the chocolate tightly, as if it were the most precious gift in the universe. Her eyes followed Ethan until he disappeared into the sea of travelers. She whispered softly to herself in her native tongue, words no one around her could understand. In her world, kindness was rare, and in that moment the human trader became someone unforgettable to her. What Ethan did not know was that the girl was not an ordinary beggar. She was far from helpless, far from common. Beneath her torn clothes and hungry frame was a secret that could change the fate of worlds. But for now, she was only a starving child who had tasted kindness through the last piece of chocolate carried from Earth. And that was enough to spark the beginning of a story that would echo across the stars. The day after Ethan gave the chocolate, the market on Leora 7 buzzed with unusual whispers. Merchants and travelers talked in low voices about a small alien girl who had appeared and vanished quickly. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by curiosity and the mystery of who she really was. Meanwhile, Ethan went about his usual business, unaware that his simple act of kindness had become a topic of conversation among powerful beings. He had returned to the station's crowded corridors, carrying small trade goods and hoping for a few more credits. Life, as always, demanded attention. But the memory of the girl's smile stayed with him. Something about her had felt different. Far, above the market, aboard a sleek silver starship hidden in the station's hangar, the girl, Princess Lyra of Navarra, sat quietly. Her eyes were still wide with wonder, but she was alert and thoughtful. She had tasted kindness from an unexpected human, and that memory warmed her more than any meal could. Lyra was no ordinary child. She was the sole heir to the royal family of Navarra, a planet rich in rare minerals and advanced technology. Her people had lived peacefully for centuries, unknown to most of the galaxy, but power always attracted danger. A group of mercenaries had tried to capture her, hoping to control her world through fear. Lyra had narrowly escaped, traveling disguised as a common beggar to avoid detection. As the starship glided silently above Leora 7, Lyra's advisors began their search for the human who had helped her. They were astonished by his generosity. "A human?" one said, disbelief in his voice. "They are known for greed and selfishness, yet this one gave without asking for anything in return?" Lyra's eyes sparkled. "Yes," she whispered. "That is why I remember him." Back on the station, Ethan was unaware of the royal attention he had attracted. He moved through the market, bartering with alien traders and dodging merchants who tried to cheat him. Life was routine, predictable, and safe in its own way. And yet, a part of him wondered, had he really done enough to help the little girl? Suddenly, two attendants in elegant uniforms appeared at the market. They asked for him politely but firmly. "Are you Ethan Hale?" one asked. "Yes," Ethan said cautiously. "Who wants to know?" "You helped a child yesterday," the attendant said. "Please come with us. She wishes to speak with you." Ethan blinked in surprise. "Speak with me? She's just a kid. I don't know what I could do for her now." The attendants exchanged a glance. "You will understand soon enough." Curiosity pushed Ethan to follow them. They led him to a sleek shuttle waiting at the edge of the station. As he stepped inside, the hum of the engines filled the small space. He felt uneasy. Humans were not considered influential in the galaxy, and yet here he was being invited onto a starship that looked far more advanced than anything he had ever seen. The shuttle doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a bright room with smooth metal walls and soft lighting, and there, sitting on a small platform with a blanket over her shoulders, was the girl. Lyra looked at Ethan, and her blue eyes seemed to glow softly. "You helped me," she said simply. "You gave me food when no one else would. I want to thank you properly." Ethan blinked. It was just chocolate. Anyone would have done the same." Lyra shook her head gently. "No, most would not. Most humans and aliens think only of themselves. You acted differently. That is why I remember you." Ethan felt a strange warmth in his chest. No one had ever said anything like that to him before. He was just a trader, a survivor. Yet somehow his small gesture had meaning beyond what he had imagined. Lyra's attendants explained her situation carefully, though Ethan could barely believe it. She told him about Navarra, her royal lineage, the mercenaries, and the fragile state of her planet. Humans were considered minor, players in galactic politics, yet here he was in the presence of a princess whose life had been in danger. Ethan's heart raced. Your royalty? But you were begging? You looked so..." Lyra smiled faintly. "I had to hide. It was the only way to survive. And you saw me as a child in need, not as a princess. That is why I will never forget you." Ethan's mind spun. He had given chocolate out of simple kindness, expecting nothing in return. Now that small act had brought him into a story bigger than he could ever imagine, and for the first time he realized that being human, simple, kind, clever, could have a power even advanced technology could not match. Lyra looked at him thoughtfully. "I need someone I can trust, someone who can think differently. Will you come with me? Not as a servant, but as a friend and ally?" Ethan hesitated. Humans rarely got chances like this. The galaxy was dangerous and he was just one man. But the memory of her hungry eyes and the memory of giving told him the answer. Yes, he said finally. I'll help you, whatever it takes. Lyra smiled, and for the first time, in days, she felt safe. And for Ethan, the galaxy suddenly felt bigger, brighter, and full of possibilities he had never imagined. Ethan had never been on a ship like Lyra's before. The moment he stepped aboard, he realized humans were small, players in the galaxy yet capable of things no one expected. The way Els glowed softly and consoles flashed with information in languages he barely understood. Robots moved silently around, maintaining the ship, while Lyra walked beside him, explaining everything in careful, simple words. "This is my ship," she said. "It can travel faster than most fleets and it hides from enemies using cloaking fields, but it cannot fight alone. That is why I need help from someone who thinks differently, someone unpredictable." Ethan scratched his head. "Unpredictable? Me? I'm just a trader. I sell goods, I survive day by day, I don't command fleets or plan battles." Lyra smiled faintly. "That is why you are perfect. Most aliens think in rules, patterns, and plans. Humans think with courage, with ideas that others do not expect. That is power too." As the shuttle moved toward the Nivaran system, Lyra told Ethan more about her homeworld. Nivara was rich in crystals that powered energy shields, rare enough that many species wanted control. Her people were advanced but small in number. For generations, they lived peacefully, hidden from the larger galaxy. Now, enemies threatened that peace, seeking to capture the planet and its secrets. Ethan listened carefully, absorbing every detail. He had always relied on cleverness and observation to survive. Now those skills could save a world. During their journey, Ethan noticed how Lyra's advisors acted. They were polite but cautious. Many had never trusted a human before. They whispered, among themselves, skeptical of Ethan's value. But Lyra defended him quietly. "You saw me as a child, not a weapon or a prize. That counts for more than you realize," she said. Ethan smiled awkwardly. "I just did what anyone with a heart would do." Lyra shook her head. "Humans are strange. That is why I need your mind." Over the next hours, Ethan and Lyra began to plan. The enemy fleet approaching Nivara was large and powerful. Conventional tactics would fail. Lyra's advisors suggested standard defenses: shields, laser, cannons, and traps. But Ethan noticed something they did not. The enemy would follow predictable strategies, trusting their technology more than their senses. "What if we use the terrain?" Ethan suggested. "Your planet has mountains, narrow valleys, and crystal fields. We could lure the fleet into traps where their technology is less effective, and we could mislead them with small decoys." Lyra's eyes widened. "Humans really do think differently. This could work." Encouraged by her reaction, Ethan continued. "And small groups could act like independent units making unpredictable attacks. The enemy won't expect humans to improvise and your soldiers could take advantage of that," the advisors murmured nervously. "It is unorthodox," one said. Lyra nodded firmly. "We will do it. Trust him." Over the next few days, Ethan helped train small teams of Nivaran soldiers. He taught them to improvise, to observe, and to use simple tricks against technologically superior foes. At first, the soldiers were doubtful, but slowly, they began to see the value of his ideas. They moved more freely, reacted faster, and learned to trust instinct over protocol. One night, as they reviewed their plans, Ethan and Lyra stood near the observation window, looking at Nivara from orbit. The planet glowed with blue oceans and green mountains. Small cities shimmered with lights powered by crystal energy. Ethan felt a deep respect for the world he had only just met. "It's beautiful," he said softly. Lyra smiled. "It is worth protecting. And now, with you, I think we can." Ethan hesitated. "I never imagined giving chocolate to a starving girl would lead to this. Me, standing here, planning how to defend a planet." Lyra laughed quietly. And yet that is how humans are. Small acts of kindness can grow into great things. You have already changed more than you know. The alliance between human and alien grew stronger each day. Soldiers began calling Ethan the human who thinks like a star, and even Lyra's advisors began to see the value of a mind not bound by rules. As they prepared for the approaching threat, Ethan realized something important. He was far from a hero in the usual sense. He had no weapon stronger than a blaster, no fleet to command, no special powers, but he had courage, quick thinking, and the ability to see what others overlooked. And sometimes that was enough to change the course of history. High above Nivara, the enemy fleet drew closer. Yet inside the command room of the starship, a human, traitor, and a young alien princess stood side by side, planning a defense no one else had imagined. Together, they were more than a team. They were a spark of hope that even small beings could make a difference. And so, with trust, courage, and the unexpected brilliance of a human mind, the stage was set for the battle that could determine the fate of a world. The skies above Nivara darkened with approaching enemy warships. They moved like a black storm, their metal hulls reflecting the light of Nivara's sun. On the ground, soldiers prepared defenses, but fear was heavy in the air. Many had never faced a fleet so large, so powerful, so confident in victory. Inside, the command room of Lyra's starship, Ethan stood beside the princess, studying a holographic map of the planet. "They'll come through the northern valleys first," he said. "It's the easiest path for them, and they'll expect to dominate without resistance. But we can use that against them." Lyra nodded, her blue eyes focused. "Your plan?" Ethan pointed to the jagged terrain on the map. "We lure a part of their fleet into the narrow valleys. They'll be too large to maneuver, and our forces can attack from hidden positions. Smaller squads can strike fast, then disappear before the enemy can respond. They won't expect humans and Niverans to use the land like this." Lyra's advisors exchanged nervous glances. "It is risky," one said. Ethan smiled faintly. "Yes, but sometimes the unexpected wins battles more than strength or numbers." Soon the first enemy ships descended into the valleys. From hidden outposts, Nivaran soldiers trained by Ethan opened fire. The enemy fleet was caught off guard. Ships collided with rocky cliffs, their formations broken. Smaller squads led by Ethan moved quickly, disabling weapons and rescuing trapped units. Ethan ran across the battlefield with a small blaster in hand, shouting instructions. His human instincts allowed him to see opportunities the enemy had overlooked. A group of soldiers trapped in a canyon was surrounded by armored walkers. Without hesitation, Ethan used a small explosive device to collapse part of the canyon wall, creating a barrier and giving the soldiers a chance to escape. Lyra watched, from her starship, awe in her eyes. "He's incredible," she whispered. "I never imagined humans could fight with this creativity and courage." The battle raged for hours. Enemy ships adapted, but Ethan anticipated their moves. He encouraged small teams to act independently, to use misdirection, and to exploit weaknesses in the enemy's strategy. Where the aliens relied on technology, humans relied on quick thinking and flexibility. At one point, a massive enemy cruiser descended directly on the capital city. Ethan spotted it on the map and turned to Lyra. "We can't let it reach the city. I need volunteers to distract it while I guide a squad to its weak points." Lyra's soldiers hesitated. "It's too dangerous." Ethan met their eyes. "We have to try. I will go with you, but you must trust me. Follow the plan." Inspired by his courage, the volunteers nodded. Together they moved through the streets, creating diversions, setting small traps, and confusing the cruiser's targeting systems. Ethan led the final strike, placing a calculated explosive near the cruiser's engines. The ship shuddered and then exploded, its pieces scattering across the sky. On board the starship, Lyra let out a sigh of relief. "Humans, truly remarkable," she murmured. "Their courage, their minds, it is a force even technology cannot match." As the sun set on Nivara, the enemy fleet began to retreat. Their leaders had underestimated a world defended not only by its technology, but also by the ingenuity and bravery of a human mind. The soldiers cheered not just for the victory, but for the hope that they could survive impossible odds. Ethan stood beside Lyra on the observation deck, looking down at the city below. Smoke rose from some parts of the battlefield, but the people were alive. Homes were intact and children would sleep safely tonight. He felt a strange pride. He had not been a hero in the usual sense. He had no advanced weapons, no army, no fleet. Just his mind, courage, and determination. And that had made all the difference. Lyra approached him. "You saved more than soldiers today, Ethan. You saved the spirit of Navarra." Ethan shrugged, a small smile on his face. "I just did what I could. Anyone would have done the same. Hopefully." She shook her head, her eyes serious but kind. "No, most would not. Humans are rare in the galaxy for their courage and their kindness. Today you showed what makes your species special." Ethan looked at her, understanding for the first time that small actions, like giving a chocolate to a starving girl, could grow into something that changed the fate of worlds. That night, as Navarra's citizens celebrated their survival, Ethan and Lyra planned the next steps. The threat had not completely vanished, and allies were needed. But now, they understood something crucial. Victory was not only about strength. It was about courage, quick thinking, and trust. In the vast galaxy, humans might be small, but they could be extraordinary. And in Navarra's history, this day would be remembered, not just for the battle, but for the human who made a difference, simply by being brave, clever, and kind. The stars above Navarra shone brighter that night, as if celebrating the alliance between a small human and a young alien princess, an alliance that could shape the future of the galaxy. The battle for Navarra had ended, but the work was far from over. Ethan stood on the observation deck of Lyra's starship, looking down at the planet below. Cities glimmered in the evening light, and small fires from the day's conflict were slowly being extinguished. People walked in the streets, rebuilding and helping one another. The sense of hope was strong. Lyra approached him quietly, her blue eyes reflecting the glow of Navarra's moons. "We survived," she said softly. "Thanks to you." Ethan shook his head. "No, thanks to all of us. I only gave ideas and tried to be brave. You and your people did the rest." She smiled, but there was seriousness in her tone. "You have changed how Navarra sees humans. Until now, humans were considered minor and unpredictable, but now your courage and kindness have earned respect across the planet and beyond." Ethan felt a mix of pride and surprise. A traitor, a simple human from Earth being remembered across a galaxy he barely knew. He had never imagined that his small act of giving chocolate could lead to this. Lyra led him to the palace in the capital city. Citizens gathered to witness a ceremony honoring those who had helped defend Navarra. Soldiers and civilians alike cheered as Ethan and his volunteers were introduced. The crowd had heard about the human who had taught soldiers to think differently, who had saved lives through quick decisions and bravery. Ethan felt nervous, standing before hundreds of eyes. He was used to dealing with markets, not crowds, and certainly not royalty. Yet when he saw the faces of those he had helped, he felt a sense of belonging he had never known. Lyra raised her hand, quieting the crowd. "Today we celebrate not just a victory in battle," she said, "but the spirit that allowed it. One human, Ethan Hale, showed courage, kindness, and clever thinking that changed the outcome for all of us. He reminds us that even small actions can have great power." The applause was overwhelming. Ethan could hardly believe it. People cheered not because he had weapons or advanced technology, but because he had been human in the best sense, compassionate, brave, and clever. Later, in a quieter room, Lyra spoke to him privately. "I want you to stay, Ethan. Not as a soldier, not as a servant, but as an ambassador of Earth. You have qualities our people admire, and the galaxy needs humans like you." Ethan hesitated, looking down at his hands. "Ambassador? Me? I'm just a traitor. I don't belong in politics or in galactic affairs." Lyra shook her head firmly. Belonging isn't about where you come from. It is about what you do. You acted without expectation, with courage and kindness. That is why you belong here. He smiled faintly, feeling a warmth in his chest. For the first time in years, he felt that his life had purpose beyond survival. He realized that the simple human traits he had always relied on, empathy, quick thinking, courage, were his greatest strengths. Over the next weeks, Ethan worked alongside Lyra to strengthen alliances with neighboring systems. They met with other leaders, showing them that humans could be trusted and valued not for their weapons, but for their spirit. Everywhere they went, the story of the human who gave his last chocolate to a starving girl was told. It became a legend, a reminder that small acts of kindness and courage can change the course of history. Ethan often visited the orphanages and hospitals that had formed during the battle. He laughed with children, shared stories, and sometimes he even brought chocolate, remembering the moment that had started it all. Lyra joined him, and together they inspired others to see that courage and empathy were universal languages. Months later, as he stood on the observation deck with Lyra once more, Ethan looked at the stars. He thought of Earth, of the markets, and the small life he had once lived. Now he was part of something larger, a galaxy that had begun to understand that humans were not weak, not unimportant, but capable of great and unexpected things. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have changed more than Navara," she said. "You have changed how humans are seen in the galaxy. Your kindness, courage, and cleverness are remembered. You've shown that even the smallest acts can become legends." Ethan nodded, understanding at last. A simple piece of chocolate had started a chain of events that saved a planet, built trust across species, and showed the galaxy the best of humanity. And in that moment, under the light of Navara's moons, he realized something profound. Being human was not about having the strongest weapons or the fastest ships. It was about courage, compassion, and cleverness. Those qualities, small and simple as they seemed, could change worlds. The stars above shone brightly, as if celebrating humanity's place among them. And for Ethan, the trader who had once only hoped to survive, the galaxy was now full of possibilities, friendships, and hope.